and at 23, he passed with honors and was awarded the Geshe Lalpa degree equivalent to a doctorate of Buddhist philosophy. Till now, His Holiness has authored and co-authored more than 110 books. His Holiness engages intensely and regularly with the scientists under the ages of mind and life and participates in interfaith dialogue, educational projects like sea learning, and teaches that we need to stop poisoning the environment and that from insatiable consumerism, we need to move to a sustainable lifestyle. His Holiness's tireless efforts on behalf of human rights and world peace have brought
I can't see the mixer
international
lens. I can't tell where I am. I can't tell
He
where I am.
is the recipient of Raoul Wallenberg Congressional Human Rights. His Holiness is a beacon of inspiration for Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike. Your Holiness, we are very grateful to you for agreeing so graciously to come and teach today in our terribly polluted Delhi. Before I request His Holiness to deliver his lecture, we are going to have a prayer from the children of St.Columba School and a song from Pratik NGO, which will be followed by a book release. So can I invite the children from St.Columba School to come up and say their prayer? What? Yes, please start.
true faith in you.
Your Holiness, today is also the International Child Rights Day. So we are going to invite children from Pratek. This NGO is for underprivileged children. So please come and sing your song. And I invite Pramanko Goswami also to come up. I've announced.
The underprivileged.
underprivileged.
Organization.
가.
Today is a very special day for children across the world. It is the 20th of November and the 30th anniversary of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, will it be okay if we call you Our Holiness, Our Dalai Lama? We know you love children and have spoken a lot about us. We, the children across the India, belonging to the 9 is Mine campaign led by Pratek, are about to summarize all the 45 rights that are enlisted in the convention through a medium that is very familiar to children of today. It may not be the one which is associated with religious leaders of the likes of Our Holiness, but we are certain you will appreciate this medium of our generation. And you will appreciate this medium of our generation and support us as we release and sing for the first time in public our own composed anthem called Rights on Track. Here in your presence, we seek your blessings and your support in making all rights real for all children, particularly the unheard last child of world. Thank you.
Citizens below 18 with rights are born. It's essential to announce a bright new morn. There must be no discrimination to achieve our dreams and future destination. Shoring is our state's responsibility to put our best interests as top priority. Parents are our guardians all along the way to provide us with the tools to learn, grow, and play. All rights for all children. It is not our choice or invitation. All rights for all children. It's an expectation and obligation. Children have a right to a family, to live with parents, not in animosity. Rights are often deserted and alone, with rights to adoption for love and a home. Legal removal from your home isn't fair. With our parents, we ought to receive care. Protect us in these circumstances. We need to improve life chance. All rights for all children. This is not our choice or an invitation. All rights for all children. It's an expectation and obligation. Just imagine what it's like as a child refugee in a nationwide strife. No drugs, they cause addiction. Protect all children in armed conflicts. You have special rights for disability or living in a minority. Child labor is wrong, we ignore it too long. Children ain't in school, exploited for long. All rights for all children. This is not our choice or an invitation. All rights for all children. It's an expectation and obligation. We all have the right to state our opinion with child-friendly mediums of expression. We have the right to privacy and to information that is necessary. Groups should be allowed in peaceful circumstance. Respect our belief or esteem to enhance. Each girl and boy must know each right. Inform the world for child right unite. All children for all rights. This is not our choice or an invitation. All children for all rights. It's an expectation and obligation.
Thank you very much. And now His Holiness will release
a book which is called Daily Inspiration from His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Thank you.
This book came out 21 years ago. They've redone the book. And this is from Penguin Random House. This is a book of quotations which I did.
Oh,
They
really?
have redone it after 21 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yogi. I now request Pramanko to say a few words from Penguin Random House.
Good morning, His Holiness, Dr. Renuka Singh, teachers and students of St.Columba School, and everyone who is present here. I feel truly privileged to be with you today. It's a great moment for us at Penguin Random House, India, to see the reincarnation of the book in the presence of His Holiness. We are truly grateful for that. This book, which is chronologically arranged, will bring us closer to the thoughts of His Holiness in the most practical manner. There is one thought for each day from 1st January to 31st December. We sincerely hope that this book will be the perennial source of happiness, courage, and compassion for all of us. Thank you very much. A book is available outside. You may pick up a copy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pramanko. So today, His Holiness is going to give a discourse on overcoming anger and anxiety. Your Holiness, people often talk about justified anger. However, we know that anger is the root cause for human unhappiness, conflict, and violence in the world. It manifests in myriad forms in our daily lives and society, from family, media, politics, and education to self-hatred and destructiveness. So, it becomes an imperative and challenge to envision and live a future full of hope, patience, kindness, and compassion. May I now request His Holiness to teach?
대수 게 대수션. 오. 들어줘.
No, the kids have to ask. Okay. ये mic रखे ना उनको बोलना।
Dear younger brothers, sisters, and elder brothers, sisters, indeed, I feel very happy mixing with people, and particularly young people. When I sit with old people, then sometimes I feel, you go first, me go first. Then when I mixing with young people, 85-year-old person mentally sometimes feel younger. So I'm very happy, very enjoy meeting with you. Then time always moving. So no force can stop that. Time moving, changing, is nature. Now the question is whether we utilize time properly or not. And for that, is the past, we can't do anything. But the future depends on present. So we can make opportunity to create future more peaceful, more happy, or difficult future. Now, in that respect, the generation of 21st century, you are the key sort of people who create this century, more happier century or difficult century. So the generation of 21st century, you have the opportunity and also responsibility. And also the remaining 21st century, like me, you won't see, but you have to live. So therefore, it is your own interest to try to have happier century. So the generation of 21st century is very, very important. So please, these young brothers, sisters, please think more seriously how to build happy world, happy century. Because, a lot of problems which we are experiencing and seeing, including war, these are human creation. So, since these problems, many problems, human created problems, so logically, we also have the ability to eliminate these problems. If not entirely, certainly we can reduce these problems. So, the young human being, you have a very good opportunity and also moral responsibility to create happier world. So now, like these violence, war, mainly creation of anger and also selfish and narrow-minded. If we create on this world a concept of oneness of human being, no basis of we and they, then you see these such a sort of cruelty and war, too much based on we and they. And that also finally concept of I, we, lacking sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. If we consider entire 7 billion human beings as human brothers, sisters, then you see no basis to kill each other, to bully each other. Therefore, now it is very important that we have to develop sense of oneness of human being. And then logically, you see, human being are social animal. And then any social animal, they have the sense of concern about their own community, because their own life very much depends on the community. So ancient time, community, you see, his or her own area, firstly family, then small community. Now today's world, the reality, the Eastern world depend on Western world, all this technology, or this sort of modern science, or these come from West. We very much rely on them. Then also for economy, these things, West also is in need, depend on the East, and similarly South and the North. So from that, judging that reality, then today's human community seems entire 7 billion human beings is one human community. So we Buddhists usually, you see, recite this is some sort of prayer, entire sentient being, and we describe mother sentient being. And then also you see the other religion, like Judeo-Christian tradition and Muslim, those theistic religion who believe God. So from that viewpoint also you see entire world created by one God. So that God, something like our Father. So all 7 billion human beings are children of one Father, God. So, judging from that, entire 7 billion human beings are brothers, sisters. So, these theistic religion, except Creator God, very powerful. And God, everybody, you see, consider God infinite love. So our Father, one God, is infinite love. So we all 7 billion human beings are children of that God. So if you think seriously, how can human beings kill each other, bully each other? We have to live side by side with spirit of brotherhood, sisterhood. Then, as I briefly mentioned, according to non-theistic religion, or Sangha, or one part of Sangha, no concept of creator. And then Jainism, no concept of creator. And then Buddhism, no concept of creator. But then the main sort of message is ahimsa and karuna. So in this country, over 3,000 years, the concept of ahimsa and karuna. So when you seriously practice ahimsa, then no basis to attack, to harm other. So no basis of war, violence, and all these ahimsa concept related with karuna. So when you sort of follow the teaching of these ancient Indian teachers, ahimsa and karuna, then automatically you see that person become very peaceful, very compassionate, and a sensible person. I think India, comparatively today, India most peaceful. And then the religious harmony, because of ahimsa, concept of ahimsa, different religious tradition, homegrown different religion, and religion come from outside. That's mainly Judeo-Christian and Islam and Zoroastrian. These come from outside. But you see, remain here, peaceful, and religious harmony in this country, truly, really remarkable. So in our neighbor country, due to different religious faith killing each other, in this country, religious harmony, marvelous. So therefore, India, the 1,000-year-old concept of ahimsa and karuna is very much relevant to today's world. And then, again, India's tradition, secular way. You see, whether believer or non-believer believe this religion or that religion is personal matter. As a human being, you see, we need practice of ahimsa and karuna. So among the Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilization, Indus Valley's civilization, which is India's original. So, you see, this Indus Valley's civilization, I think the main sort of concept, as I mentioned earlier, non-violence and compassion. And that also, you see, according secular way, then today it's really very much relevant to today's world. Since the secular way approach these things, so through education, not through prayer, not through religious belief. Religious belief is individual matter, individual business. But this concept of peace, compassion is relevant to entire humanity. So now, I often used to express the 1,000-year-old India's tradition, ahimsa, karuna, through education. Firstly, in this country, should revive in education field. Not only education which exists today is very much oriented about material value. Basically, existing modern education comes from West. So in the West, Judeo-Christian tradition, so there are sort of, whenever some problem or some difficult phase, just pray God, God, God. No sort of education or knowledge how to tackle our emotion, our mind. So now this country, before Buddha, before Mahavira, already have the concept of ahimsa and compassion, karuna. Now my 그래, 그래서 편지를 야무로. 그러면 되게 오케이. First, let me I enjoy this tea. You just visualize. You also have sipping tea. Or usually we do like this in form of offering Buddha or God. So now this time offering you. But actually nothing. So now, of course now a lot of people here, so I may mention, I have 4 sort of commitment or responsibility. Number 1, I consider I am just one human being on this planet. So now even scientists say basic human nature is more compassionate because we are a social animal. Any social animal, their, as I briefly mentioned, their sort of life very much depend on the community. So therefore, basic human nature is more compassionate. Now that's some scientists now thinking that way. So that should be basis we can develop compassionate human being through education. So these days I expressing in kindergarten level, the teaching or education or how to take care of your physical health. So same time, we should include hygiene of emotion, hygiene of physical, hygiene of emotion. So children also, do you prefer a smile or like this kind of face? So naturally, smile, indication or expression of loving kindness. So when I was young, like you, when my teacher showing a little bit of sort of serious face, I don't like. When my teacher, make some jokes and some sort of smile, then I do not feel tiredness. If more serious face, then I watch as soon as finish that lesson, I feel much happier. I prefer like that. So therefore, young children, since we love smile, warm-heartedness, so now education should include about hygiene of emotion and how to create happy mind, peaceful mind. So my number one commitment is try to create 7 billion human beings, more compassionate human beings. For individual physical health also, now these days some scientists also now mention peace of mind very important for healthy healthy body and because of longevity, long life. So therefore, now not talking about next life, not talking about Buddha or God or heaven, simply how to be happier human being, human society. So through education, we should include education about our emotion, how to tackle anger, fear, jealousy. These emotions are destroyer of peace of mind and eventually also destroy our health. Therefore, you see, in our education should include more, also the explanation, more more education about our emotion, about our mind. In that respect, in this country, very, very rich material about mind, emotion. Usually I describe something like map of emotion. Once we fully understand or knowledge, then much easier to tackle these emotions as a secular way. So these things mentioned in religious text. Now here you say, according to my own little experience, a lot of explanation in these Buddhist texts about psychology. But then this should consider as an academic subject, not a religious subject, according to Indian tradition, secular way. So, number one, my commitment is try to promote compassionate mind or loving kindness, loving kindness through education in the whole world. As I am one person out of 7 billion human beings, wherever I go, I always talk these things. Number one. Number two, my commitment is try to promote religious harmony, as I mentioned earlier. I have full confidence. Religious harmony is very possible. This country, as I mentioned earlier, all world religious traditions live together. And mutual respect. And in some cases, mutual learning. I often use mentioning the Parsi community in Bombay, less than 100,000. They are Zoroastrian. He used to come from outside India and then settled in Bombay. They carry some fire puja or something. In big city, over a million, I think several million Christian, Hindu, Muslim, less than 100,000 population, Parsi, very happily, no fear. So, that's one example, this country. I think religious harmony is truly exist over 1,000 years. So I have full sort of conviction religious harmony is very possible. So my number 2 commitment, wherever I go, I always try to share with people all religion, in spite different philosophy, different teacher at different time, but all carry message of love, and with that forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline. So all major religion, in spite different philosophy, the main message is same. Therefore, and that also is logically, all these religion, except you see according to the creator, then different. Otherwise, all these religion, human created. So human naturally, human good quality, best quality is human love. So all religion, which essentially created by human being, they carry the concept of loving kindness, taking care other, not harming other. So that all religion of human being carry this message. And then, you see, mentioned different philosophy, it is necessary according different people, different mental disposition, even if in different geography, different climate, you need different way of approach. The goal, aim is same, loving kindness, compassion, like that. So religious harmony, very possible. Otherwise, it is just India's neighbor, Afghanistan, and then the Arab world, in the name of religion, killing each other, unthinkable, really. So therefore, the religious harmony, very important. So it is possible to create religious harmony. India is the example. Okay. Then, number 3 commitment, I am Tibetan. Tibetan people trust me. So I have moral responsibility to think about their future. So political matter, now already I retired since 2001. I completely retired from political responsibility. Then we already have elected political leadership. Then, regarding Tibet, ecology. Now global warming really become more serious. So many experts about ecology, they really warning us. So Tibet case, according to some Indian ecologists, they say the Tibet high altitude and dry climate. So, like ecology, these once damaged, it takes longer time to recover. So, ecology condition in Tibet is quite delicate. So, I often use expressing the concerned people there, and particularly Chinese, including Chinese business people. See, exploitation about the natural resources there. This should take care. Yes, it is worthwhile to use natural resources, but forest, these things, they should pay more attention. This is my regarding Tibet. And then most important is Tibetan knowledge. From childhood, I study these texts which originally translated from Sanskrit. So, when I was like you, I quite lazy. Then you see, when you see, I kazo the counting. Now, when holiday come, so the next day holiday, then today I feel very happy. I think you also have same feeling, isn't it? So, I'm quite lazy, but those subjects which I learned, they also know the traditional way to study these things. Firstly, root text, learn by heart, memorize. Few hundred pages, memorize. Then explain each word according commentary, mainly Indian masters' commentary. Then we extensively use debate, because Shantarakshita, who are introducing Buddhism in Tibet in 8th century, he himself, great logician. So therefore, you see, he introduced Buddha Dharma in Tibet according Nalanda tradition, his style. Logical approach is very essential. So now, the Tibetan, also the knowledge, not only just prayer or religious belief, religious or ritual, but logic and philosophy. The Nalanda philosophy, now very much, you see, the similar quantum physics. Quantum physics half. The Nalanda sort of also now quantum physicists, you see, they already develop things outside, external things does not exist as appears. If you analyze, nothing you can find. So quite similar, the Chitta Mantra's concept, external thing does not exist, only mental creations already. Like that, mental projection. And then, so quantum physicists, they say there is huge gap, appearance and reality. The reality does not exist as appears. This is exactly the Nalanda philosopher, exactly as he mentioned these things. So I want to share with young brothers, sisters, when I listen quantum physicists, naturally, I, with respect and humbly, listen their explanation. Meantime, in my mind, I feel I know much better. Because we study years about the Nalanda tradition, Chitta Mantra philosophy, as well as Madhyamaka philosophy. Within Madhyamaka, there are some Madhyamaka philosophers also, you see, accept the Chitta Mantras, mind-only school thought. And then the Prasankika Madhyamaka, wonderful. Now, the similar quantum physics, nothing exists as appears. So, mention these things because our destructive emotion, very much based on appearances. You convince things exist as appears, and some nice thing, attachment, some negative thing, anger. So now some student in China about quantum physics, now they express, so once they believe nothing exists as appears, that automatically reduce the grasping something independent existence there. That's the basis of all these negative emotion. So therefore, the quantum physics, not only external thing, but observer also, you see, through centuries investigation, where is I? That's observer. So there is no independent I. Now here, differences. Atma theory and Anatma theory. Like that. So therefore, Tibetan tradition, some Chinese professors who notice these things, they express Tibetan Buddhism is true lineage of a Nalanda tradition, and that tradition is very scientific religion. Some Chinese professors, you see, express that way. So therefore, the Tibetan knowledge, I think, very useful to preserve. So it can make, I think, certain contribution regarding our sort of knowledge about inner world. Then that's mainly regarding the Tibet, the Kasota. And then political matter, as I mentioned earlier, already we have all elected political leadership. And since 74, according Pandit Nehru's advice, and also according our own experience, then we are not seeking independence or separation from China. We very much sort of willing to remain within the People's Republic of China. And then important is Tibetan knowledge must be preserved, and including Tibetan language should be preserved. And when we say Tibet, in 1914, similar convention, they say, make distinction, inner Tibet, outer Tibet. So independence for Tibet, outer Tibet. Inner Tibet, Amdo, Kham, these are, they consider inner Tibet as a part of China. So if we only concern outer Tibet, then around less than 2 millions. 2 millions. Then including the outer Tibet, inner Tibet, Kham, Amdo, then altogether about 6 to 7 millions. So we are sort of concerned all those Tibetan, which Chinese constitution recognize as a Tibetan sort of race, should have same right to preserve their 1,000-year-old knowledge and including that language. So that's political field. You see, we are not seeking independence, but we should preserve Tibetan ecology and rich Tibetan culture. Now today, I think ancient Nalanda knowledge, now in India, you see, all these knowledge disappear. So only among Tibetan, we still kept all these Nalanda thought, Nalanda knowledge about psychology, about logic, about, you see, these like quantum physics, these things, we still, in our tradition, very much alive and also very useful to tackle our emotion. So these knowledge in order to keep peace of mind, not just a blind faith, but through analytical meditation. What's the value of anger? What's the value of selfish? Ultimately, all these negative emotions related with selfish. So, the great master like Shantadeva, they are writing Kasa, Shinju Kasa.
A guide to the Bodhisattva way of life.
Really wonderful to tackle self-centered attitude and create altruism. So thinking other actually benefit yourself maximum way. So since many years I use the word we are selfish as a human being. Whole evolution come with take care oneself, including animals. But now since we have this human brain, so our selfish should be wise selfish rather than foolish selfish. So wise selfish means since we are social animal, our individual life depends on the community. So take care maximum way about others' well-being. That's the best way to fulfill your selfish sort of interest. Like that. So the firstly Shantarakshita introduced Buddha Dharma in Tibet in 8th century, and he himself logician. So they all sort of approach anything. So all the first our reaction is why. The sort of also the question mark, why? Even Buddha's own word, why he taught that. So some Nalendra master rejected some Buddha's own teaching. If you accept this literally, it goes against reason. So we must reject. Like Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, these clearly mentioned that. So Buddha himself, I think, allowed us, all my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So many Nalendra masters exactly follow that way. So, as I mentioned earlier, Nalendra tradition, Buddhist tradition, non-tradition, much sort of emphasis on logical approach. So, Buddhism as Chinese, as I mentioned earlier, described as a scientific religion. And my own experience, around, I think about 40 years, I have serious discussion with modern scientists. Eventually, it become very useful to mutual learning. We also learn something from scientific sort of finding. And then they also, very much appreciate about our knowledge, our mind, about how to tackle these destructive emotions like that. So that's regarding Tibet. And then my latest commitment is try to revival of ancient Indian knowledge about ahimsa, karuna, and the vipassana, analytical meditation. This is India's tradition. Now modern India, I think, not sufficient to pay attention about this knowledge. Your modern Indian very much sort of follow the materialistic education. Now time come, you should pay more attention about ancient Indian knowledge, about mind, about emotion. Then logically India is the only nation who can combine modern education that oriented about material value and science and technology, very useful, and then meantime ancient Indian knowledge tackle our mind to build inner strength or inner value. So only India can combine ancient yoga knowledge and modern knowledge combined. Modern knowledge bring us physical comfort. Ancient Indian knowledge bring us mental comfort. That's, I think, whether believer or non-believer, a secular way. So I usually make distinction. These, I think I already mentioned. You see, these knowledge we should consider as an academic knowledge, not religious knowledge, although come from religious text. But we should consider these are secular way and about the academic subject. So I'm trying to revival of ancient Indian knowledge. India, the young Indian. Now you should pay more attention about ancient Indian knowledge about mind or ahimsa or karuna, these things. The young Indian now should pay more attention and study. So the secular education, you should include education about mind, as I mentioned earlier, from childhood, hygiene of emotion, these things. So that's my the latest my commitment. I really found number of Indian scholars, they really showing interest about my commitment, revival of these ancient Indian knowledge and combine ancient knowledge, modern knowledge, like that. Then India can make a significant contribution regarding world peace, peace through inner peace, like that. So now the text. Now today I am going to speak something about 8 verses on a great Tibetan as a monk and also scholar. The Atishas was a disciple and kasadi potowa kadam kuchisum potowa and potowa da pesolomari langshani that the language tango
So the text that we are going to go through was written by a disciple of one of the disciples of the Potowa, who was in turn a disciple of Master Atisha Dipankara Srijana, who came to Tibet, and this text was written by a disciple who was a disciple of Potowa. A disciple of Potowa. And so regarding the disciple of Potowa, there were the 2 disciples mainly who were called
Sharawata Lingritangpa Langshanis.
And so these 2 disciples were Sharawa and then Langri Thangpa. So this text was written by Master Langri Thangpa.
So he wrote these 8 verses. He himself is a great practitioner of altruism. So he wrote this very short, something like prayer or some text. So I myself, since very young age, I recite these 8 verses every day. So this is quite short and very meaningful. Now, with a determination to achieve the highest aim for the benefit of all sentient beings which surpass even the wish-fulfilling germ. May I hold them dear at all times. Through analytical meditation, see, all sort of happiness, and including long life and physical health, very much depend our attitude towards other. So, just think oneself, then all these negative things, negative emotions, you see, come. Think more about others. You get for immediate, also peaceful mind. And then, next life, no question, you practice altruism, think other, or more. And then, 100% sure your next life will be a human being and a happy life. Then, practice that. So every moment, your action motivated altruism, then every sort of karma action become positive. So 젊은이들이 소야들이 semji tekso lamji shungshinde lamji jeba namji shida ten 총이 거로 신주 제도 ramjawa keso tebe sunam들 대다시에 계속 보는 레지스트 투동 티든지 내저 내전냠에 대다시 단도시 상서로 써다 됐다 시부지 내시부도 와 판도 편의시부 시부지를 셔 심지 상부 세팅.
So, as Master Tsongkhapa has said, this altruistic spirit of enlightenment is like the yardstick of the great vehicle tradition, and it is also the basis of all the great bodhisattva practices. And therefore, the practitioners, bodhisattvas, make this practice of bodhicitta their principal practice. So this shows how great the altruism and concerning with the concern for the well-being of all other sentient beings is very important and significant.
Then, may I hold them dear at all times. Now, this also related with ultimate reality. Now, may I hold, where is I? Beside this body and mind and voice, where is I? So if we investigate, we can't find. Recently, I met among the sort of audience one old lady. She's seeking some kind of blessing from me because her mind so too much sort of anxiety or sort of disturbed. Then I ask her, where is self? Where is I? Where is you? She responds, here, I here. Then I ask, round or square? She answered, round. So, investigate where is I. We cannot sort of find the real sort of basis of I. So, the anattama theory is essentially, ultimately, we cannot find, even if it's the quantum physics, as like external thing. Observer himself or herself, investigate beside this body, mind, a voice, nothing we can pinpoint. So, as the Chandakirti, daughter was and Tanamshing, Namse Shepe, Namdu Yuva Mainsh, Tele, Shandu Juba, Jigzen, Chagwekone, Yeva in Soda Dirida. Then a thousand Tanya to Chagwekone, the Yori Sash Mado, Kopaka thousand Zani, Sensing Mercy, just all in them.
And so if you try to search for your true identity, you cannot find anything that you can actually pinpoint as being yourself. You cannot find this I that you usually hold on to be existing as something concrete or something like that. As Master Chandrakirti has said, when you actually analyze through the sevenfold reasoning, like analyzing a chariot, you will not be able to find anything that you actually can pinpoint as being the I, the self. But despite that, you do exist. The I or the person does exist merely by way of convention. The worldly convention. And so we should understand that things are merely designated and that they are known by worldly conventions.
Kada 시루는 차쟁이 겨울보다 참이 시절은 미시시. 다 차파셀 주고 차쟁고 샤점도 와. 다 작별권에 딱좀 샤면 켜는도 와.
And so, as we say, logically, we cannot actually have anything that is a standalone kind of an entity. And whatever there is, there is always some kind of a part. We can talk about a whole. When we talk about a whole, there's always the constituent factors that make up the whole. And so when you try to search for the identity of the things, you need to actually dissect the thing into its parts and further into the subparts and so forth. When you do this, then there's nothing that you can actually find as being this or that.
Then, whenever I interact with someone, may I view myself as the lowest amongst them. And from that very depths of my heart, respectfully hold others as superior. So in order to tackle self-centered attitude, using these practice, very, very helpful. And the reality, if the circumstances, if someone you remain humble, sincerely. Then if someone take advantage, then analyze whether let the other take advantage and what result, what consequences, analyze. Then if circumstances, and through analytical meditation, analyze, then eventually, you see the kasota, kanda, the other person, himself or herself, you see, may get more suffering, more committed negative karma. Then, according to their circumstances, if necessary, to countermeasure, to stop their wrongdoing, like that. Then in all my deeds, may I prove into my mind, and as soon as mental and emotional affliction arise, as they endanger myself and others, may I strongly confront them and avert them. So as I already mentioned, the analytical meditation, we should develop clear understanding what kind of emotion is harmful, what kind of emotion is useful. Then everyone, you see, carrying themselves. So all this negative emotion is ultimate destruction, the destroyer of your own happiness, your own peace of mind, like that, as I already mentioned. when I see beings of unpleasant character, right,
No.
oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as I have discovered a jewel, a treasure. rāngshīngi bēsim jīne tīdū chākwa nān tōngsi, rīngi tētā chāwa shīngi yawar kāwa jīnsi shōs. So as a result of practice of altruism, then it's genuine concern of our so-called enemy, troublemaker. That sense of concern is genuine compassion. A sense of concern of your own friend is more mixed with attachment. So the proper way to test your own genuine compassion, really genuine or not, is to look towards your enemy. The genuine sense of concern of their well-being, that is genuine compassion. Okay. So, as Shantadawa say, enemy who creates trouble for you is best teacher. It's true, like that. When others, out of jealousy, treat me wrongly with abuse, slander, and scorn, may I take them myself, the defeat, and offer to others the victory. Wonderful. Few years ago, some in Tibet, some sort of local holiday.
2008.
2008. Some people in Lhasa start demonstration, and then suppression. So at that time, I visualized some of those Chinese officials who making that kind of decision. I visualize and take their anger, their fear, take myself. Give them forgiveness or tolerance and compassion, that kind of sort of visualization. So no help to actual the situation, but it immense help to keep peace of mind, like that. So then, as a sort of practitioner, altruism, then whole phenomena appears something very positive. Too much self-centered sort of thinking, then whole phenomena appears something negative, and fear, distrust, suspicion. So sometimes I, as a practitioner of altruism, now at least I think 50 years, more than 50 years, with a combination of understanding of Shunyata, about now 60 years, 70 years. So sometimes when I saw some wrathful deity, I feel a little strange to whom they are wrathful sort of face. All phenomena, all sort of sentient being, very dear. 세상에 다 잡고도 스탠드를 주제지, 내디 다그들이 껴봐 탐지지 장안 좋아 대신이다네. 바로 내가 저도 벌써인지 다들 설명나서 가을키스 그리스도와 쉬우식 누버쳐버려. 세상에 초유 개부 시대도 되지. 다 가을 초기 나서서 저는데 계속이 점점점씩.
So when I see these wrathful paintings of wrathful deities, I sometimes think, to whom actually are they showing their wrath? In fact, when I see these portraits of the wrathful deities, I also feel that what Master Shantideva has prayed is actually true, which says in the third chapter, at the end of third chapter, today I called in front of the protectors, the Buddhas, and I call upon all sentient beings as my guests for the ultimate realization of Buddhahood, and in the meantime also for the temporary benefit within the cyclic existence. And therefore, with this prayer, I actually pray that may the gods and non-gods, demigods and so forth, be joyful.
When I give some tantric sort of what's it, kasa, initiation. Usually at the beginning, you see some part, expel all negative forces. Since now some few years, I no longer practice that. There's nothing. Pia, tada kicks in pia kagem dua.
So in this kind of tantric rituals, when we come to the point of doing this we call ritual, to this where we imagine to dispel or drive away the so-called evil forces, I actually think that there's nobody, no sentient being whom we could call as being our enemies or adversaries. Everyone is our friends.
Dendriki puketa, naksam nesum changdengeti, nyingjewe yurumado, puket trewe yukena marwa. Tsu tangpulan yinje.
So in fact, these so-called evil beings whom we think of driving away during these kind of ceremonies are our objects of compassion. And therefore, we should not think of them as some kind of a adversary who are harming us or anything like that, but be compassionate towards them.
In brief, may I offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly. May I quietly take upon myself all hurts and pains of my mother. May all this remain undefiled. By descending stains of 8 mundane concerns, and may I recognize all this as illusion, devoid of clinging, be released from bondage. That at the beginning, I or that, now investigate where is I. It is more easier. Kansa dame the chöji dame, 동니 참여관의 샤베는 차라스게 엄마데 이네 동시 쇼생은에 kansa dame 도서 로르 차대 소스도가 I said 받잖아 레랑 쇼스도. 저자가 이네 나이 천시 지금 나는 시주가 되면서 나이 천시 고르에 있음. 아니 부모가서 아니 kansa 천시를 샤서로 다소 낭배 된주 랑생생에게 낭배 좀더 삼을로기 나이 천시 이기남시도 갈래요미요래. 아니 가셔게도 왜 우토니 근신남시사 시기요래. 담시 소게 아니 가다 정규 사샤네 천시 이기남시세네. 가다 나선 조주스 고도 삼천거로. 다디 켜는 야만 시자네. 아니 합도 갈래지 동상으로 시작도가. 다디 domde ene mingi tani yawang ge yeba sammato ngoni tu tene yawar saje inde lolia shandamenda ji lo deoji achi odere tatisha
So when we, with regard to this last verse, when you come to say, may I recognize all things as like illusion and so forth, you should try to relate this verse with the analysis into who you are, as I have already explained with regard in relation to verse number 2, when we say, whenever I interact with somebody, you should do analysis of who you are and try to see whether you can find this so-called I or me, within this psychophysical, from within this psychophysical aggregate or not. And so when you do this kind of analysis, we actually try, what we try to gain insight into is twofold. One is the what is called the selflessness of persons or beings and selflessness of phenomena. And between these two, selflessness of phenomena, the selflessness of person and phenomena, it's easier to gain insight into the selflessness of person. But then, within the Buddhist philosophical tradition, there are those schools who kind of assert that there must be something that we can actually point our finger at, that we can actually identify as the real, the true nature or the true identity of a person as such. And therefore, they kind of assert that within from amongst the psychophysical aggregates, the 5 aggregates as we call them, what can actually be called identified as the true identity of a being or a person is the mental consciousness. And then within that, within that, there's some schools like Chittamatrins kind of desperately assert a so-called alaya vijnana, foundational consciousness, as being the true identity of a person or a being. And then there are those of the Madhyamaka philosophical tradition, followers of Madhyamaka philosophical tradition, particularly the Savatantrika Madhyamakas, who say that the 6th consciousness, the 6th mind, is the true identity of a person. But even though they do assert such things like the alaya vijnana or the 6th consciousness as being the true identity of a person, when you actually put these two under the lens of critical analysis, you will not be able to find anything as being the person as such. Whether it's the alaya vijnana or the 6th consciousness, nothing can be found. When you do that kind of analysis, critical analysis, to look into the nature of the I or the person, what you actually get at is that this empty nature of yourself. And there is this sense of we call a vacuity that you may get into. And then we call what you actually can come to conclusion is a person yourself. When you analyze yourself, you cannot actually find anything that you can actually pinpoint as being your identity as such from amongst the 5 psychophysical aggregates. Nothing can be found as being the person as such. And therefore, what you actually can conclude is that this me or the I is merely designated. That it's called merely designated by way of worldly convention and nothing else.
So these practice actually is a tackle also emotion, destructive emotion. Firstly, self-centered, selfish is the key factor, key sort of factor. All those destructive emotion come. For that, antidote is bodhicitta, altruism. Then another sort of wrong view, everything exists as appears. Antidote of that, nothing independently exists. All are just mere designated. So that analytical meditation about shunyata is the antidote of tenzing.
Yes. So the understanding that things have no independent existence, that they don't exist the way they appear to us, is the kind of counterforce or the antidote to this grasping or clinging at some kind of a concrete self.
So my daily practice, mainly these two things, Buddhicitta and analytical meditation about Shunyata, immense help in order to keep peace of mind. And when come across some problems, so these two practice really immense benefit. So thank you. So I really appreciate you give me this opportunity, you organize this opportunity. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Your Holiness, there are some questions from the students already.
Okay.
Yeah. What should we as students practice first, compassion or wisdom?
I think wisdom you need more study. So I think gradually come. Remain more warm-hearted person. So that's practice of altruism. So firstly, I think you should practice 1,000-year-old India's tradition, ahimsa, karuna. Next.
How do you view yourself? How do you view yourself?
Just a human being, one amdo. Amdo human being.
How do you handle exam pressure?
What?
How do we handle exam pressure?
Kasa. When I carry some also the examination, the finally Kishi's examination. Yes, little also anxiety.
Nervousness.
But it's basically, I think 13 years I study. And then when you see the date of my examination finalized, then I put more effort for study. So not much worry. Okay.
How can we as a student attain eternal peace and also can excel in our academics both at the same time?
가르쳐서. I think, again, altruism, the very purpose of your education, study, is serving to other, largely serving to humanity. And then you get more enthusiasm or more effort. No sort of feeling of tiredness come. It's just think yourself. And then tiredness certainly come. Okay.
As written in the second verse, it's mentioned to consider yourself lowest. But we are told not to consider yourself lower than others at home. By considering yourself low, aren't we demoralizing ourselves?
소소 현재버는 진진글로 랑이 매물 따야디 닝도 요러와 디몰라샤 켜내면도 와
So there's no way you can feel demoralized when you see yourself as being the lowest, because this is done from within the practice of altruism. Considering others to be more, cherishing others over oneself alone.
Sufficient and social members that we demoralizing.
Yes. But if you remain selfish, then when you actually do think of yourself as being the lowest, that's actually demoralizing yourself.
Amidst all the ensuing chaos in the world, which stories, moments does His Holiness revisit to instill faith in humanity again?
Karsa. Ka. As I mentioned earlier, you see, everybody wants happy life. And lack of knowledge, what is the destroyer of unhappiness? Destroyer of happiness. And what is the ultimate source of happiness? You see, these, I think, lack of knowledge, so sometimes you feel because of frustration. This is also something to the much material.
So basically, what this shows is that you lack understanding of the working of our emotions, our minds.
Okay. No, I think, please, okay. No, okay, no problem. Yes?
What could be the reasons for the prevalence of depression and anxiety among school students?
And I think you should, as I mentioned earlier, the self-centered attitude and lack of knowledge about the whole emotion system. That's the main reason. So study. I think at least the Shantadeva's book, very helpful.
Should the young preserve their traditions or embrace modern culture?
Karsa. I think, as I already mentioned, combination. The education which comes from West is no knowledge about emotion, these things. So the existing Western education, which comes from West, the certain field not sort of sufficient or not mentioned. So in that, the India's sort of 1,000-year-old tradition should Soviet.
So we should actually be able to add India's ancient knowledge.
Okay.
How important is meditation for the young today?
I think it is quite, relevant. At least in morning, the class session start. I think few moments just to remain silent and think about mind. They're quite useful.
Were your personal challenges as a teenager close to the ones we face today?
I think variety. That's also the come the merchant, not all of that. This is the
So it's difficult to say definitely as it seems, because things depend on your own circumstances and your own mentality, mental disposition, and so forth.
Why is the Guru important?
Karsa. Oh, that? any Shenju do and the Lama the Tomarangi do was a course. China and Tori Jangi, Shenyan to a show, Nisho, Yanda Labo, Senja Lungishu, Tini Rudu, Makende, Zewe Dangi, Joban, Dan Songwa. That's Zewe Dangi, the big casualty.
As Master Tsongkhapa in his great treatise on the stages of the path says, someone who wishes, who wants to actually discipline others must first be able to discipline himself or herself, because there is no way without disciplining yourself first, you can actually discipline others, control others' emotions and so forth. And then when it comes to explaining about guru devotion or reliance on guru, there are 10 different criteria that are mentioned in the Mahayana Sutra Alamkara, and one of them is that of compassion, affectionate love or compassion. And so this quality is very important in a teacher.
What, according to you, is happiness?
Karsa. I think two levels. One physical level, joyfulness. At the mental level is more important. Mental level, happy, joyful. The physical pain, not much important. Not much sort of effect. Other hand, physical, very comfortable, very happy life, but mentally too much disturbances. That person cannot call happy person. So mental level much more important.
Okay. Your Holiness, children want to know, how did you escape from Tibet?
Oh, that's a long story. Firstly, you should know, 9 years I spent with Chinese communists. And 1954, I went to China. I developed very close relations with Chairman Mao Zedong and many party members. I really admire those Communist Party members, truly dedicated, serving people. Wonderful. Then eventually, I think power spoiled them. And then people who have power, then they no independent law. So one of my friend, actually the late president of Israel, Kasa, Shimon Peres, he very socialist. So he very sympathetic towards Chinese in early period. Then later, one occasion I met him and I asked him, do you think now China is socialist? He immediately said, no, worst kind of capitalism. So in any way, the worst thing is no freedom, no free press. So people in China, just only one information. The parties sort of, propaganda, like that. So then finally, even if my life is facing some danger, then I escaped. 1959, 10th of March, sort of cried, because entire house of people come to Nobulinga and shouting. So then next 10th of March till 17th, I try my best to cool down the situation, but failed. Then 17th, I decided leaving Lhasa. So the last moment, a Chinese, the local leader, asked me, they want to know the place where I stay. There are a few blocks, Nobulinga. So they want to know the place. They should mark, and they will protect. So when we received that letter, they either truly target or project. Do not know. The last 9 years, very difficult. Eventually, since 1956, much sort of suppression in Eastern Tibet. So, number of also the spiritual leaders and also local sort of leaders, many killed like that. So therefore, then when I received that sort of also the message, so doubt whether, so it clearly shows they're going to suppress or military action. So then, 17th morning, I decide leaving now. And also, I carry some mysterious ways to investigation. So then all the same sort of indication should leave. Like that. Okay?
How do you overcome grief?
Karsa. Ka. Buddha also died. And Nagarjuna, all these, you see, dead. It is nature. The whole galaxies come and disappear. So someone is passed away. It's quite nature.
What is self-enlightenment in your view?
Kasa.
Self-enlightenment.
Ka.
Self-enlightenment.
Self-enlightenment. Actually, according to my own little experience, as I mentioned earlier, several decades I practiced Shunyata, wisdom level, and altruism, wholeheartedness. I feel lamngasum changasan chedeagi. Solomon toachide yalligi vesosdo.
So through my practice over the last 70 plus years, I feel that perhaps I may be somewhere close to what is known as the path of accumulation within this 5-tiered path system. And so if we relate the 5-tiered path to the mantra of the Heart Sutra, which says Gati Gati, Paragati, Parasamgati, and then Bodhiswaha. So there are 5 different paths that are called that these mantras refer to. So I feel I may be somewhere near this first Gati, which is a reference which called is referred by the path of accumulation.
Then?
So this is the last question. Is it good to be just a normal human being, or one should be very nationalistic?
Nationalistic? I think that's also nationalistic sometimes. Ngela ngoro kandistoga. Samlo bosu togoyan roda chigim gruba. Taya me sosu ta miri di me jumzen dem chigda tenji ta thome kone di shen yakjata sometimes in yunguru.
So to be nationalistic also, you need to actually check within yourself whether this nationalistic attitude happens within a set of mind which is very narrow-minded, or not, I mean short-sighted and so forth, or not. If that is the case, then that's not a good thing to do. Whereas if you actually see the constructive nature of being nationalistic, and thinking that you're the people of India or your own country, if you are able to do something for them or to protect them and so forth, is a good reason. If you see a good reason for that, then you can be nationalist, which may be considered as a constructive one.
무슨 nationalistic 전에 폐지다 지 랑쇼의 현쇼 차단제대로 전에 야와야 말해.
Yes. So in the practice of nationalism, if you actually tend to be kind of biased, where you hold your side to be better and then wish to overcome or destroy the other side, then that's not good.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Your Holiness. Now I'd like to invite Brother Miranda, the principal of St.Columba School, to give the vote of thanks.
Your Holiness, first of all, a huge thank you to you. You have blessed each one of us with your presence. You blessed our whole school with your presence, and just your interaction with us is more than we could have hoped for. So thank you very, very much for your presence among us. Your Holiness, St. Columba's was founded in 1941 at a time when it was relatively certain that India would gain its freedom. And therefore, the education in this school is to prepare our young people for leadership, not necessarily as politicians, though we don't mind that, but that they would be the leaven in our society to create that country where the dreams of the Mahatma Gandhi, and the dreams of God could be fulfilled. The motto of this school is Sapere Dare, dare to know, the type of intelligent questioning and understanding which you were talking about, and sincere et constanta, sincerely and constantly. And so hopefully through that we will lead our students to fulfill their destiny. This particular program could not have taken place without the blessing and the work of so many people. We thank the Venerable Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Spiritual Director of Tushita and FPMT, for his guidance, but who couldn't be here because he is in silent retreat in Singapore. I thank all the ex-directors, ex and current spiritual program coordinators, teachers, students, and members of the Tushita. Thank you for bringing His Holiness into our school campus and among us this morning. Let's give them all a big hand, to all the personnel at Tushita. To all the sponsors and supporters of the Tushita Center, and in particular for this event, Satish Nanda, Veer Singh, Sahil Vachani, Sasha Sippy, Tarina Patel, Minoti Bahari, Ranjana Kumari, Lokesh Jindal, the Bandaris, Stellas, Ranjit Walia, Sanjay Manaktala, Ashit Janeja, and Sonny Talwar. Thank you very much, all these persons. I thank our little boys and the students of Pratyek for the welcome, dance and song which started this program. Thank you very much for all your efforts and the teachers who helped you. I thank Your Holiness's private office for the webcast. I also thank the Bureau in Delhi and Tibet House for all their cooperation. To Tempa Shering, who originally conceived this event with Tushita, but is unfortunately stuck in Washington, D.C. I thank all the volunteers, light, sound, and tent workers. I thank News 10 Channel and Dr. Patel's Foundation for covering this event. I thank the Delhi Police for the security and traffic arrangements. I thank our parish priest of the Cathedral Parish, Your Holiness, for allowing your vehicle entry and exit, hopefully, safely. I thank Penguin Random House for the book Daily Inspiration, the source of all your inspiration, Your Holiness. And finally, Your Holiness, don't say goodbye to St. Columba's. Please come back again.
Okay.
And I end with, there were our brothers from Ireland who started the school, and I think you know, there's a dear friend of yours, right, who was the president of Iona College, Dr. Jack O'Driscoll. He was a Christian brother, like myself, right? And I send you off with the blessing, an Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hands.
Thank you.
Your Holiness.
Thank you very much. Tasaro. Ka.
Hello. Please be seated. Please be seated.
Please be seated.
All those seated, kindly remain seated until His Holiness leaves the stage. Kindly be seated. There are security issues. Please be seated. Please be seated. Sir Narendra, clear the way. Narendra sir, please clear the way. Our sincere request to all the others, please move back. His Holiness needs to move off. Thank you. Thank you for your cooperation, everybody. Thank you for your cooperation. I request you all to sit. Please do not crowd His Holiness. Please do not crowd His Holiness. Please sit in your places. There will be an orderly dispersal. There will be an orderly dispersal. Please maintain the wonderful discipline you have had.